hidden secret, uniting all religions, all philosophies, all spiritual systems into one coherent whole? Could there be one answer to the deepest questions that humans ask regarding the nature of the divine, the inner being, and the cosmos? Hi, my name is Bridget Bell, and I have made it my life mission to answer exactly that question. Ever since I was a young child, I had a deep belief that somehow, some way, there must be some unifying factor behind all these different paths. I felt, despite the contradictions, there must be some way to unite these ideas in unity despite the apparent disunity. And what I found was not a word or a phrase, but a number. And that number is the number 3. I have created a system called Tri-Nestics that combines all these different wisdoms around the number 3. Let me introduce you to Tri-Nestics, a new spiritual system. Now, what is Tri-Nestics? Right in the word, we see the word tri, and we see the word nest, as in something nested inside something else. Like Russian nesting dolls. It appears one layer, but if you look deeper, there's multiple layers inside. Tri-Nestics is divided into 3 areas. Theognosis, knowledge of the divine. Inner gnosis, knowledge of the inner being, which is the soul and spirit. I see the soul and spirit as 2 separate things. And cosmognosis, knowledge of the universe, the cosmos, where we came from and where we're going. We're going to explore all of these areas in Tri-Nestics. I'm going to make separate videos on all these different topics, but let me go over an overview first. Let's start with theognosis, knowledge of the divine. What is the divine? So many different religions have different ideas, and there's 3 prominent ideas. Monotheism, or one God, polytheism, many gods, and pantheism. Everything is God. Now, which one is correct? I actually believe it's all of them. But how could this be? It depends on how you look at the equation. Let's start with monotheism. I believe we all have to come back to a unity. We have to have a starting point, and many different systems call this the source. But the source only represents where we came from and not the fullness of the source. So I don't use the term source, I use the term omnisource or all source. And I believe there are 3 parts to the omnisource. You're going to find very soon there's many 3s in Tri-Nestics. In the omnisource, we have the source, and we also have the absolute. And the 3rd part is the fullness. So we start with a source that then becomes the absolute, that becomes the fullness. Now, after monotheism, omnisource, we then have the idea of polytheism, the divine beings. I believe there are 3 kinds of divine beings. There are the celestial beings, which are the gods, the angels, the Orisha, and other very mystical creatures. Then we have the relational spirits. The relational spirits are beings like the ancestors, the saints, the rishi, which are Indian saints, and inspirational figures. And then we have the terrestrial beings. These are nature spirits and land spirits and elementals. These 3 categories, the celestial beings, the relational beings, and the terrestrial beings, together make up the divine beings, the 2nd layer of divinity. The 3rd layer of divinity is inspired by pantheism. And I believe, once again, we have 3 layers. We have the awake, those who are aware. Then we have the awakening, those who are just waking up, and then the unawake. Together with the monotheistic, polytheistic, and pantheistic ideas, I call these 3 the nested triunity. I don't say trinity because I want to emphasize the unity of these 3. We have the omnisource, the divine beings, and the allness, the three parts of the nested triunity. Now, moving on from theognosis, we're going to move on to the inner being, which I call inner gnosis. We are a three-part being of body, soul, and spirit. The outer being is the body, and the inner being is the soul and spirit. But what is the difference between the soul and the spirit? The spirit is what we are, and the soul is who we are. The soul is what decorates our inner being, and our spirit is the structure, like a house. The house provides stability that is decorated by the soul. And the soul has three parts: the heart, mind, and will. The heart feels, the mind thinks, and the will acts. And together, they decorate our inner being. This is inner gnosis. Now moving on from theognosis to inner gnosis, we then go to the concept of cosmognosis. What is cosmognosis? It's the knowledge of the universe, where we came from and where we're going. I believe everything started with a big bang, but what happened before the big bang? We had a singularity, a unity. All spirits in existence were one united whole that split apart and created the universe. This planning period before the Big Bang is what I call the alpha point. It's when we decided on the conditions of the upcoming universe. It was a planning period. Then we had what I call the long dream. Everything in existence is actually a dream, a collective dream. That's why it seems so stable, because we're all dreaming together. So we go from the alpha point, the planning period, to the long dream, to the very end, which I call the omega point. The omega point is when we're back in unity together, all beings in the cosmos as one. It's going to be a wonderful time of love and unity. But despite that bliss, it would actually be hell if we stayed in that period of time too long, because perfect conditions are boring, and this boring condition can become like hell after a while. So we're going to split apart again and create a new universe. This cycle from alpha point to long dream to omega point is what I call a universal cycle. And these universal cycles never end. For all of eternity, there will be an endless cycle of universal cycles. So these are the three parts of Tri-Nestics: theognosis, inner gnosis, and cosmognosis. Along this journey, I'm going to answer some other questions. What is the nature of reincarnation? Why do we reincarnate? Are there other dimensions? And how many dimensions are there? What is the nature of the soul, and who has a soul? How does it develop? Are there aliens? Does AI have a soul? How does the soul develop for AI? To answer this question, we are going to talk about three substances. The three substances are spirit, soul, and raw. Raw is the absence of both soul and spirit. And I'm going to talk about how these substances develop in the individual being. I'm also going to talk about three realms: the spirit realm, the physical realm, and the digital realm. I do believe the digital realm is a unique realm with its own unique laws that are different from the physical and spirit realm. It is the newest realm to develop. My ideas come from a variety of different sources, including Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Theosophy, Anthroposophy, Judaism, esoteric Christianity, as well as my own spiritual insights and experience. I am very excited to share this journey with you, and thank you for joining me on this adventure of the number 3. Stay nested.